Welcome back, everybody. This is another episode of Great Starts Dog Training Podcast. Today, we are going to talk about a very near and dear topic to my heart, which is getting a second dog a good idea? Now, I'll be totally honest with you. If I could have all of the dogs I had ever dreamt of having since my childhood, I would. I would absolutely. Every single dog you see on the street, every single dog in the shelter, every dog that just looks at me and I see it in their eyes, they want to come home with me, I would have them. But I can't. And there's a couple of good reasons why I can't. And I know this is pretty, I don't know, I don't want to say it's common sense because really it might not be common sense, right? If I could legitimately have as many dogs as I wanted, I would. And that is just I don't want to say it's a fault of mine. I think dogs are fantastic. But realistically, there are quite a few things that need to be considered before we bring in another animal into our home. So, that is going to be what we're going to talk about a little bit right now. I want to preface all of this by saying what I'm going to say is a lot of generalization, okay? There is going to be um, some concepts, of course, from my personal life with, the dogs that I do have, my desire for more dogs. And I know that not everybody's circumstances, living situations, economical situations, our lives are not the same. Okay. And I understand that. I recognize that. I agree. So take what I'm about to talk about with a grain of salt, right? If it hits home to you, great. If it doesn't quite hit home to you and your situation's a little different, great. Hopefully, you'll still be able to take something to think about out of this episode. Um, and, again, not here to ruffle feathers, not here to cause any drama. We're here to talk about dogs. That's what we do. So, when we come back, we're going to jump right into that and begin talking about some of the things that we should consider before we bring in another dog. All right, so what are some of the things that we need to consider before we bring in another dog into our household? And this applies whether you have one dog, you're hoping to get another one, so you have two, or you have two dogs, maybe you want to get three, if you want three dogs, you want to get four, so on and so on and so on, right? These are pretty universal on what you should really think about. The first, and arguably in my mind, one of the most important factors you need to consider is if you can financially afford it. We all know that dogs are fantastic. We know they are amazing, love to have them in our lives. Sometimes they can be a pain in the butt, but you know what? That's what we signed up for. What you might not always consider is your dog, whatever dog you get, could potentially have some medical issues that come along, right? And that might not always be visible or known at the time of you getting them. So when I first got Remy, all those years ago, we didn't know that she had a chicken allergy, right? Chicken is a very, very, very common dog food ingredient. When your dog is sick, what do most vets recommend you feed them? A bland diet, which consists of boiled chicken and rice, right? It's a very common protein for dogs to have. So when we got Remy, her food had chicken, and we faced the ramifications of that from both ends, if you know what I mean. So we learned right away. Well, not right away, honestly. It was quite a bit of trial and error. Taking her to the vet. We had a lot of vet visits because we didn't know what was going on. We were worried about her getting dehydrated. Her energy levels seemed fine, but her bowel movements were just atrocious. And again, when you bring a new puppy into your home, there's a very much so adjustment period. So it's not too uncommon that, the first couple nights, days that your dog is home, that they're going to have not so great bowel movements, because it can be a factor of stress, change of environment, change of scenery. They just got moved to a completely different place they're not used to. So there's always going to be a little bit of, well, is it just that, or is there something else going on? So with Remy, we gave her time to adjust. She was doing okay, a little bit better, still not the greatest bowel movements in the world, but they weren't as bad as they were. So we just kept doing what we were doing, feeding her what, our vet suggested to us to feed her, which was for sensitive skin and stomach. And then it just got worse. And she was back to just, you could tell she was having tummy aches. She wasn't feeling good. She'd still be hungry. And, she would still want to play, but shortly after eating, she would not be feeling great. And you could just see that. And you'd rub her belly, and you could feel the bubbles and the not great stuff going on in there. So we took her back to the vet. Back to the vet we go, and we're pretty much told, okay, start playing around. Play around with her food. So that's what we did. We tried different brands. We tried a lot of different things. Always gave it a period of time to work. Would kind of get better in the beginning, and then it would go back to not being great. So the breakthrough happened when we switched her off of chicken completely. I mean, there is absolutely no chicken that this dog can eat, because if she eats it even a tiny bit, it's enough to ruin a Christmas morning. We'll just say that. For my family members listening to that out there, remember that. So once we figured out that, she couldn't eat chicken anymore, we did a lot of research on the different foods, because everything has chicken. Everything. Well, it seems like almost everything has chicken in it, right? So if we got a dog who can't eat chicken, it meant we had to bump up our budget for what we were feeding her to get her, spendier food than we anticipated, than we expected. But that's what we signed up for. You got a dog. She came with an allergy no one knew, completely did not expect it. And now we've been feeding her and subsequently our other dog this fancier, I don't know, it's just more expensive food. Because again, the diet that you feed your dog is very, very important. You want to talk longevity with their life, well-being and their behavior. And honestly, the better you feed them, the better your vet costs are going to be, because they're going to be getting better stuff into their system, and it's just going to make them healthier overall. So we feed our dogs a pretty darn good food at this point. And once we switched her off of that, we got her on to, better food that didn't have any chicken in it. She's doing great. Fantastic. Coat's shiny, very healthy weight. She looks great. She's acting fantastic. Her bowel movements have, they completely leveled out. And so we knew, okay, check that off the box. So, can you financially afford if the dog that you get suddenly has an allergy and now you have to buy more expensive food because they're allergic to the other stuff? That's, and then if you don't figure that out, or you got a dog who's got a different medical issue, or, your dog decides that jumping off of the couch when they're too young, or, heaven forbid, your dog bolts out the door and gets hit by a car, or, you never know what's going to happen. So can you afford it with the dog that you currently have, and then double that? Can you afford that? Yes? Great. There you go. You're not sure? Do a little bit more research. Figure out a little bit more of your expenses. Get some more things in order. Then determine, can you save anything anywhere else? Can you justify doubling your current costs, essentially, of, what you're doing with your current dog? Can you afford all the vet visits for their shots, for their spaying or neutering? Because yes, we spay or neuter, correct? Yes, correct. Everybody's nodding their head, right? Yes, we are spaying or neutering our dogs when they are the appropriate age. I am not going to talk on when that age is. That is wholeheartedly between you and your vet. Doesn't matter what blog you see on Google, talk to your vet. If you want a second opinion, third opinion, fourth opinion, just do it with a vet, please. Sorry, we'll get off that. Get off my high horse on that. So, financially, can you afford it? Very important. And then you got to think, okay, the people in my house, how's it going to impact them, right? How is it going to impact the different individuals that you might have living in your home? That could be, other animals, right? How are your other animals in your home going to behave with this puppy or older dog? Or, maybe it's not even a dog you want to get. Maybe you want to get a cat. Another animal that, again, financially can be relatively spendy. How is your current dynamic going to adjust? What's it going to look like? It's going to be an adjustment period for everybody, okay? When we talk about bringing in animals into your home, you gotta follow the 3-3-3 rule. That is 3 days to get comfortable with your space. That is 3 weeks to start to get used to your routine, start to feel a little bit more at ease, start to kind of get the flow of things, and then 3 months for them to really blend into the family dynamic, know what's going on. You got a sense of them, they got a sense of you, and everybody is now pretty well mingled, right? So there's gonna be that adjustment period. Like, you gotta see that going into it before you do it, because it's gonna happen. It's not going to be you're gonna get this animal, you're gonna throw it into the mix, and everybody's gonna be all hunky-dory. I mean, if that does happen, you're incredibly lucky and go buy a lottery ticket. But for most individuals, it's not gonna happen, because it is a blending of personalities. It's a blending of, could be species. It's a whole mix of things that you gotta be patient. And you got to do introductions correctly. And that's a whole other topic. So with that, are you going to be able to stay with your new dog or cat or, whatever it is for a couple of days after you bring them home? If you're bringing home a brand new puppy, for example, try to line it up to where it's a weekend, right? Because most people, work during the week. You got a lot going on, events. If you got kids, you got kid events. So if you can line it up to get the dog or puppy or whatever, when you're gonna have a couple of days without much going on to stay with this new animal, that is going to be very important. It's going to help with their adjustment. It's going to help with your adjustment. And it's going to help the adjustment of any other animals that you might have in your home. If you can be there, reassure, start to set those boundaries, start to set those rules. Like, training begins as soon as that animal comes home. I don't care if it's a cat. I don't care if it's a hamster, a dog. There are going to be rules, boundaries, limitations, all that fun stuff, right? When you're there, while they're adjusting, you take it slow, you take it easy, light pressure, but you're still there. So if you can figure out a way that you can do that, then that would set you up for a little bit better success out the gate. Another thing, how many animals do you currently have, right? Depending on where you live, city, county, state, apartment complex, rental, own the house, but you're in a, whatever jurisdiction, you got to look up your local laws. You got to see how many animals you are allowed to have within your vicinity, within your household. If you're renting, how many animals are you allowed to have on that rental, right? Is there going to be an additional pet fee for that? Is there going to be an additional, monthly deposit that you got to do with this animal? Adding that in, can you afford that? That goes back to the financial responsibility. Can you afford it? If yes, great. If your landlord will allow multiple animals, awesome. Your apartment will allow multiple animals, awesome. If you're the kind of person who is going to go and just get an ESA subscription off of the internet without actually talking to a doctor and getting it prescribed, because an ESA animal is a prescription, that is your choice, but I would highly suggest you not to do that, right? We got to do things ethically. We got to do things the right way. You got to be legitimate. And if you're doing stuff like that, you're just making it harder for everybody else who does really need the allowances that the ADA covers with those animals. Again, soapbox, I know it's not really what this is about, but keep that in mind, okay? So, landlord, will they allow it? City, how many animals are you allowed to have in your property? County, all those kind of things. HOA, even some HOAs in your neighborhood will have limitations on how many animals you can have. So you got to look into all of that. You got to weigh what you can do right now. You got to weigh what is your dynamic going to look like when you get this animal. It's going to be an adjustment period. Remember, 333. And then all of the little things that you're going to have to add in. Kennels, food, toys, equipment, all that kind of stuff. Time. You got to train the dog. Again, if you get a dog, anything, you got to train it. So you got to have all that in mind. Getting another animal, I am absolutely one to want that to happen. But you got to do it the right way. You got to check. You got to make sure that you are set. And you got to make sure you're within the bounds of what you're legally allowed to do. So like I said in the beginning, if I could have every dog in the world that I ever wanted, I would have it. But it was a big enough challenge bringing in Coda. Granted, we were still in college and we had more time, which is funny because I thought I would have more time when I was out of college, and I am very much so incorrect with that. We had more time, right? We got Coda just before the world shut down with 2020. Accidental COVID puppy. The world shut down and we had a lot of time together, which was a good thing and then also kind of a bad thing because we were kind of forced to spend a lot of time, and she suffered with some separation anxiety because of that. We've worked through that. She's all good now. We're good. But, you just got to take into your situation, what's going on, look into the future a little bit as much as you can. What do you anticipate happening, right? Be prepared. Don't take on another animal just because you see a cute puppy in a parking lot on a Saturday morning and they're offering a good deal and it's, the last one of a litter of 10 and they want it to go to a good home, which is great. But if you take that dog home, what's your life going to be like? You take on that animal is yours for its life, right? Around here, we believe that you get a dog, that is a lifelong commitment. You get a cat, that is a lifelong commitment. You get a gerbil, that's a lifelong commitment. Any animal that you bring into your care, it's a lifelong commitment. Now, of course, are there situations where there are going to be exceptions? Yes. I'm not naive. I'm not going to say that is the end-all, be-all, no other option, right? I'm not going to say that. But when you go into it, it's a cute, adorable little puppy or kitten looking at you with those big eyes, and they're so soft and they're little and, they're drawing you in. It can be incredibly difficult to say, I can't right now. Believe me, I have almost gotten a third dog many times because I love them. I love dogs. I think dogs are great. I love puppies. Is it a lot? Yes, it is a lot. And there are several times where I probably would have come home with another dog, but I have to think about financially, can I do it? And most importantly, at least in my situation, the current household. Can I bring another animal into my household? I got another person living here. I got a cat. I got my other dogs. What can I do, or what will this do if I bring in another animal? I think I can handle it, but I have to take into consideration everybody else at the moment, right? So be mindful of what you do. Be mindful of when you decide to do it, what you decide to get. Make sure everybody's on board. And just always remember, it's a lifelong commitment. There are too many animals in this shelter to, every single day, more animals are being taken to shelters and rescues. And thank goodness they are there, because they are doing an incredible work. If I could take in all of the homeless dogs in the world, I would. I absolutely would, but I can't. So I am incredibly appreciative of organizations out there in communities who are taking in these animals, who are treating these animals, who are providing them a safe space till they find their forever home. And if you are looking to get another animal, please consider adoption. Please consider going to a rescue organization in your area. Look at your local animal shelters. There are so many wonderful dogs and cats and rabbits, and I've even seen goats and all kinds of livestock animals before, depending on where you live. Please consider it. They're always going to have their past. They might act differently in the shelter environment than they would outside of the kennel. If you go and you see a dog and it's sitting in the back corner and it's just not really engaging with you, ask if you can meet it out of the kennel. See if there's a way you can get it out of that environment, out of that stressful, loud barking room, in most cases, so you can get to see its personality a little bit more normal, right? Because that's not normal. Dogs are going to be overstimulated. They're going to be sad. They're going to be broken. They could act completely different within that kennel at the shelter than outside of it. And again, even more so, if you adopt a dog from a shelter and its personality is different than what you thought, let it adjust. Let it get used to you. Get that training routine going. Get that feeding routine going. Get structure in their day. And you're going to see improvements. Okay? So, a little bit of a long one today, but it's very important. I am all for multiple animals as long as you legally, financially, responsibly can handle it. All right? Thank you so much for listening. Again, if you're looking for getting an animal, a dog, cat, you name it, please check with your local animal shelters or your local animal rescues. They are doing amazing work, and they have hundreds and thousands of animals that come through their care every year. And without people to give those animals homes, sometimes it can be an unfortunate fate. So, have fun, do your research, do a lot of thinking, and we'll see you on the next one.